Welcome back to Vintage HLC Show and Tell. Now in the last video, I talked about nappies being picked up from dinnerware shapes and used as specialty pieces, particularly if there was a flaw or a defect. At the end of that video, I mentioned that anything could be used as a specialty piece. It could be a sauce boat or a jug or butter dish, and that the nappies and platters were the most common. So I want to expand on that a little bit for this video. So we're going to begin by looking at some oddball specialty pieces. We'll start with this. This is a Purina bowl that was intended for a child's set that would have come with a mug and a plate, probably decorated with Tom Thumb or Dick Tracy or other decals. But we look at the marking, which is from 1933, and we see a second selection overglazed gold stamp. Now, Homer Laughlin was not the only pottery to use that stamp, so if you see it and no other marking, you can't automatically assume that it was Homer Laughlin. But they used it pretty much in the 30s. I have also seen Hall China use it on some of their pieces. But there's going to be something wrong with it if you see that second selection marking. They stamped that so that they made sure that this wouldn't get mixed in a child's set. So it becomes a specialty piece, and if we look at the bottom, you can see all those little specks in the bottom in the glaze. So they knew that they weren't going to use this in a child's set. It got that little marking on the back, and instead they put this exotic bird decal and some gold stamps, and you have a specialty piece. I actually have a set of 6 of these, and they all have something wrong with them that kept them from being used in a child's set. Next we have a trellis pickle or gravy liner. This rose decal, we'll see this on other specialty pieces as well. It was also used in standard dinnerware sets. But we have this green luster trim. So this is a specialty piece. You will not find a full set of trellis with this particular decoration. And I know I sound like a broken record. I've said this for several videos, but I want to point it out again because I think it's important. New collectors will find something like this and say, oh, I want to find a whole set of it. Well, you're not going to find a whole set of it. You may find a different shape with this particular treatment on it, or this particular decal, but you're not going to find this particular combination of the trellis shape with this rose and green luster in, let's say, a service for 8. This comes from 1929. Empress small jug. This would be a 48 jug. This is our Roman pheasant decal. We see this on trellis in Old Roman. Orange luster. This comes from 1928. And we have the larger versions of the Roman pheasant decal on Knoll, and this one's Republic. We see the little Republic embossing. You can also see the little specks of kiln dirt from when it was fired. Let's see if that'll show up. So they didn't use it in a Republic dinnerware set, which is actually rather nice that they didn't, because otherwise it would have got a rather boring decal. Instead, we get the Roman pheasant as a scrap decal and this orange luster, which makes for a rather dramatic piece. This one comes from 1929, and we see the same treatment on a Knoll shape plate. And sometimes you have to play where's the defect, and in this case, it's up here, right there. There's an underglazed chip. So again, it wasn't used in a Knoll set. They made a little specialty plate out of it. And this one is from 1929 as well. Virginia Rose sauce boat from the 1950s. Blue wash trim. I couldn't see anything wrong with this one, but this is a specialty piece. You won't find a full set of dinnerware of Virginia Rose with this. Kitchen craft. You will not see a whole lot of kitchen craft used as specialty pieces. But this one has an inferior glaze on the inside. It's rather thick and runny in there. So they use this decal. You normally see this one on Liberty. You'll also find it on Coronet. And a really nice pink wash trim on the top. We see the kitchen craft marking on the bottom. Republic, medium-sized jug. This decal is usually called the Ohio decal. It was used on Century Vellum, green wash trim, probably comes from the 1930s. Yellowstone covered butter dish. Now on this one, the flaw is pretty obvious right there. It almost looks like it got hit by the sagger from the piece that was fired above it, because it's a nice defined line there. Comes from 1929. These decals you would normally see on something like Yellowstone, but the orange luster trim tells us this is just a specialty piece. Empress 36's bowl with the wild rose decal and luster, 1933. And a couple of Virginia Rose Bakers. I think we saw this in the Virginia Rose video on treatments. This is a, I think it's Margaret Rose is what that's called when it's on Cavalier with a maroon border. Here it is with a tan wash trim, 1956. And this Nova Rose with the blue wash trim. We see this on theme eggshell, coronet, other shapes. And that's from 1956 as well. So those are just a few pieces of second quality dinnerware that was pulled out and not used in sets, so they create these specialty pieces. I wanted to point out this one because when it comes to toiletware, we don't see a lot of specialty pieces because toiletware is a little more forgiving than dinnerware. You weren't going to put toiletware on the dinner table. So we have these scattered sprigs and this green luster going on. You're not going to find a whole lot of toiletware specialty items. This particular item comes from 1912, and this is a Duchess mouth-oor. So put that aside. I want to make some room because now we're going to look at the platters. Because the nappies and the platters were the most common of the specialty pieces, and we've already looked at enough nappies. Move this over. We'll start with an Empress piece. This is from 1917. This could also be Quaker. They shared flatware. This double rose with lilacs and gold stamp, you will also find that on Republic platters. You can also find it on different shapes of casseroles that were intended to be used as specialty pieces. Swing eggshell. It's a rather large platter. It's about 15 inches with a fruit decal and green wash trim. I'm trying to find the imperfection on this one because you can feel it more than see it. It's right there. I know that's not going to show up at all. There's a big lump of clay right there that's sort of bulging out. So that kept it from a dinnerware set. Instead, we have the specialty piece, 1946. And I don't know if I've already mentioned this yet in this video, but when it comes to luster trims, you're looking at about 1910 to 1932. These are nice and shiny. When it comes to the more matte wash trims, we're talking 1932 to the 1950s. Yellowstone. Now you would normally see this pattern on Yellowstone dinnerware. You can find full sets of it, but with this wash trim that makes it a little specialty piece. Nasturtiums. Ordinarily you see this decal on Quaker, but here it is with a green luster. 1929. Another Yellowstone piece with a Yellowstone decal, but now we have yellow luster. It's from 1929. A lot of these are from 1929. Now we're getting into Yellowstone vellum. Usually when you have the vellum glaze, you will not see lusters or wash trims. So instead you have gold stamps. We see this on Century, on Jade, Yellowstone, and Wells, anything that used vellum. So we have Meadow Goldenrod with these 4 gold stamps. Let's see if it's dated. 1937. Another Yellowstone vellum. Again, gold stamps. That one's not marked at all. Rather large rose decals. We see these very large, prominent decals on specialty pieces about 1910. We have a double luster on this platter. This is Genesee with no date code. So you're talking about probably about 1910 or 11 on that one. Same for this one, Genesee with double luster. Let's see if that's marked on the back. Genesee. Probably about 1910 on that one. We don't see date codes until about 1912. And this is more like a white granite staple. And you can see the imperfection on this piece. Pretty pronounced little sand bump right there. So they've got this verge luster going on. They've got gold stamps, large floral decals, and you've got a specialty platter. So these are really fun to collect. You get these odd mixtures of shapes, odd mixtures of decals, gold stamps, lusters, wash trims. Continue on. Virginia Rose. I think we saw this in the Virginia Rose video. But there's our Rosetta decal that we normally see on Yellowstone. But here it's used in conjunction with a blue wash trim on a Virginia Rose platter, 1949. Meadow goldenrod yet again. This was a favorite to use on specialty ware. This is the marigold shape with yellow wash trim, 1937. Exotic bird decal, very similar to Rosetta. In fact, we'll compare them very quickly. There's Rosetta. And there's the exotic bird, and it looks like he's in a tree. This is the knoll shape, light yellow glaze with green luster. And you can see the obvious flaw in this one. It's actually got an odd mold crack right there. And it is not marked, but we know that this is a Homer Laughlin shape, this knoll shape. Frederick Reed's first shape at Homer Laughlin. Another knoll platter. This one we've got little black specks in the glaze. Poppy decal. We see this on a lot of specialty ware as well. We've seen it on Cable and Hudson, and here it has a green luster trim. From I think that's 18. Yeah, 1918. No, correction. It says made in USA. That's 1928. It wouldn't be 1918. Frederick Reed didn't come there until 1927. So it has to be 1928. It's knoll shape. Oven serve. This is yellow oven serve, and you normally do not see oven serve with decals in the melon yellow glaze. There's our oven serve marking. But this one has a lot of little glaze pops. Let's see if I can get those to show up. So instead of selling this as a piece of melon yellow, they put these odd decals on them. Those decals actually come from the knoll shape, so we can compare them. There's one sprig there, which is the same as this knoll piece. These are two different glazes, by the way. This is the light yellow glaze on knoll, and this is melon yellow and oven serve. And the other sprig has what's on the opposite side. Hudson. Now we're seeing some more gold stamps instead of lusters, large rose decals. Really prominent decal on this one. Let's see if it's marked. Yeah, this one's from 1916. Yellow luster trim, and this one's the Angelus, which is over decorated with these really large floral decals, a verge gold stamps along the rim or edge, and then we have this green luster in the verge. No date code, probably about 1910 on that one. Maybe a little earlier. Nautilus eggshell, green wash trim. Lots of little spots in this one. Again, not used in dinnerware. This is from 1941. I wanted to show this one in particular. There's not necessarily anything wrong with this one. But this peacock decal, you will see only on platters. Usually it's on Cavalier eggshell. This one's Nautilus eggshell from 1950. You sort of have to treat these like the turkey platters. They're just specialty pieces. A rather odd looking decal. Only appears on platters though. An older rose decal on Nautilus eggshell. This is from, oh, there's no date code on this one. That's a little unusual. But But this is a decal you would normally see on something like Hudson or Genesee Specialty Ware, but here it is on eggshell nautilus with green wash trim. I wanted to show this one, this Calirose decal, which we see on so many different Homer Laughlin shapes. This is a legitimate treatment. This ivory shoulder with the golden casing lines and the cabbage rose in the middle. This is on Georgian eggshell. It is from 1941. But where that is a standard piece of dinnerware, so you will find every piece of Georgian eggshell with this treatment on it. Unlike this piece, which is Georgian eggshell, which is used as a specialty piece. So we have the same decal treatment, but now we've got this pink wash trim. Because there must be something wrong. Actually, there is something wrong. I can feel it. There's a rippling effect in the clay. I don't know if that's going to show up or not. It's pretty pronounced. It goes all the way across. You can feel it. So they wouldn't use this in dinnerware. Instead, it becomes a specialty piece. This one's from 1942. Wild Rose, rather impressive size of nautilus ivory platter with green wash trim. This was another favorite that they use on specialty ware besides the Rosetta and the, what was the other one? Meadow Goldenrod that's used a lot. And another nautilus ivory. We see this decal in coronet, and then we have the pink wash trim. This one's from 1941. Okay, so we'll look at some Century and Jade, and then that'll be it. So I said on before with those Yellowstone pieces, whenever you have vellum, you don't see lusters or wash trims. The same is true with clair de lune. So we have a Jade clair de lune platter with these little gold stamps in the corners. Rather large decal. Again, this is one of those decals that you would normally see on Hudson or Genesee platters. So they're used here on Jade. This comes from 1932. And that's your greenish blue clair de lune glaze. I don't know if that's going to show up in the video or not. I don't have the best lighting. Century. We see these gold stamps. Little star flower in the centers of these stamps. That's pretty typical. There are others that are used as well, but that's pretty much the most common one when it comes to Century Specialty Platters. And the defect in these, not necessarily going to be kiln dirt or any little cracks or anything like that, has to do with the bottoms. Because there's no foot on a lot of these earlier pieces. They've got this wobble, really pronounced wobble to them. So that's usually what's wrong with these. There's your Starflower gold stamp again. Just a floral decal in the middle. We've seen this decal before on oven serve and especially salad nappies. Here it's used in conjunction with our garland gold stamp border. And this one actually has our second selection marking that we saw before on the little Purina bowl. That's from 1934. Another older type rose decal, again used with our garland stamp border. This one's pretty warped as well. You might be able to see that curvature going on that edge. Little poppy decals. Second selection marking yet again. This comes from 1934. Wild Rose. Now the platters are getting a little bit larger. We have another type of gold stamp going on in the corners. There's Wild Rose. Nova Rose again, or Star Flowers. Excuse me. And there's Nova one more time, but with the different gold stamps. So there's Nova with these more elaborately decorated gold stamps as opposed to the Star Flower with the same decal. So that's going to be it for specialty ware. I think we're done with this subject for the time being. Next time we're going to look at some pieces of Fiesta mates and colorations.